welcome back to another day of my Vlogtober videos. I thought I'd do something a little bit different today because it's actually something that has been requested by quite a few people when I have been showing projects that I have been working on recently. And that is how I go about making a magic ball or magic cake for my granny stripe blanket. This is my granny stripe blanket, which I have been working on since Christmas of last year, so it's coming up for a year, which is very exciting, and I absolutely love this project. It is a really lovely way to use up mini skeins. There's a couple of reasons why I think that a granny stripe blanket is actually preferable to a mitered square blanket or cozy memories blanket, which I have completed one of recently. The reasons that I think that this is preferable are, number one, you can really use any kind of weight of yarn in a crochet granny stripe blanket, and it works a lot better than if you do that with a cozy memories blanket. With a cozy memories blanket, it tends to warp the shape of the blanket somewhat if one of the squares is in a heavier weight yarn, whilst you can pretty much put any kind of weight into one of these and it hides it really well, so you can use all kinds of different weights of yarn, which is great. Also, you're not necessarily restricted to a certain amount of yarn in terms of what you can add into this, because if you're not particularly bothered with a stripe reaching the entirety of the blanket, you can use all your scraps and odds and ends, whilst with a cozy memories blanket, if you want all of your squares to be the same size, a lot of the time you have to use an exact weight per square. So this, I think, is just a nice alternative to use up all of those scraps of yarn, and plus it's just a really lovely project to work on. It's quite brainless, particularly if you use a magic ball or magic cake of yarn. The reason that I haven't been working on my blanket for a while is that I actually used up the magic cake that I made for this project, and I need to start a new one. So I thought, well, why not share exactly how I make my little magic ball with you guys, so in case you want to do something similar, you can. It's a very easy and simple technique, and it's actually quite addictive, so I hope that you enjoy this little video and that it's useful to some of you. Now, there's only really one thing that you need to make a magic ball of yarn. Well, two things really, but one set of supplies, I guess, and that is a selection of minis. In my lovely little pineapple here, I have quite a few little scrappy minis, and I'm talking really teeny tiny ones, slightly bigger ones, all kind of different weights. I believe that everything I've got in here is fingering weight, and a lot of these are actually left over from Cozy Memories squares that I put into my blanket when I was finishing that off. Because something that I have found when I'm working on the Cozy Memories blanket is that sometimes I'll only use up half of a mini skein, and that means you get all of these little scraps left over. So these would be perfect for me to use in our lovely magic ball. The only other thing that you need is a little bit of knowledge, and that is how to make a magic knot. And the magic knot is really the magical element, shall we say, of the magic ball, because it creates an infinite string of yarn joining your different colours together. It also means that there are no ends to weave in at the end of your project, which, believe me, is probably the biggest reason that I love to make a magic ball and go about things in this way. There are some people who choose not to use a magic ball or magic cake for projects like the crochet granny stripe blanket, because with colour management you are a lot more restricted when you're crocheting from a ball, because you can't really imagine exactly how all of those colours will lie together once they've been crocheted into the blanket. But personally, I think the convenience of not having to weave in any ends, and also just the joy of watching the colours change and it being a slightly more effortless and mindless experience rather than every time I change a colour having to make a conscious choice, it's something that I prefer, which is why I like to do it. But without further ado, I'm going to take some of these minis and show you how to make a magic knot. Okay, so first of all, what we will need is 2 different little minis of yarn. So what I have here is this lovely navy blue yarn here, and this slightly over the top pinky yarn as well. What you will also need is a pair of scissors, but we won't be using those until a little bit later. So what we're going to be doing is taking our 2 ends of yarn and joining them. It's easiest if you lay your yarns parallel to each other, one at the top and one at the bottom. This one at the top we are going to go under and then over to create a little loop, which you can see just here. We then tie that yarn in a knot and pull it nice and tight around the other colour. So we have 1 knot just here. And with our bottom colour, we're going to essentially do the reverse. We're going to do over and under this time. So over our yarn, under our yarn, create that little loop again, and knot the yarns together. And again, pull it nice and tight. What we now have is our 2 pieces of yarn that have been knotted together nice and tightly. So our navy yarn's been knotted around our pink, and our pink has been knotted around our navy. Now this is the bit that I really love. We've already made it so that these knots are nice and tight. We're going to take the working ends of the yarn and we're going to pull those so that those knots move together nice and close and give them a good tug. And this is our magic knot. It's magical because no matter how much I pull on these 2 working ends, this is not going to come undone. To finish up, we're going to take our scissors and we're going to chop these ends off as close as we can without damaging our working yarn. And that is how we make the magic knot. And it really is as simple as that. We've now got 2 different colours of yarn which are joined together using the magic knot, and basically all you need to do in order to change your magic knotted yarn into a magic ball or magic cake is to wind it, keep on winding, one little mini scrap on top of the other, and repeat when you come to the end. And it's really as simple as that. So I have a lovely dish filled with minis that are all ready to become my new magic ball. And the only difference is, if you want it to be a magic cake rather than a magic ball, is that you can either wind it all into a ball and then use a ball winder to wind it into a cake, or you can use the ball winder as you go and just wind a little bit, tie on some more, wind on a little bit. Personally, I prefer to use the magic ball just because I find it an easy activity. This is a lovely thing to be able to do just sat on the sofa watching TV. It's particularly fun if you're not necessarily feeling 100% or wanting to be particularly active. For example, if you're quite heavily pregnant, because you can just sit and enjoy and wind up all of these skeins, and it's a very pleasant activity. So that's what I'm going to continue to do now. I'm going to create myself a nice little magic ball. I'll get it joined into my granny stripe blanket. Job's a good one. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you all enjoy creating your own magic balls to use for whatever project that you might want. But I love the granny stripe blanket, so yay!